So tell us a little bit more about you've discovered this. You're utilizing plants now to activate or at least release these stem cells within the human body. What was the process like of selecting the specific ingredients? Because I looked at them. There's some very sea buckthorn and other
Uh-huh.
ingredients in there. They're very interesting. And of course, there's so many plants out there. So what was it that led you to this combination?
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it looks for somebody not knowing the story, looking at the list, and they just look at like an eclectic list of various ingredients, and every
Right.
single one of them has a very, very specific history. So we discovered that AFA, this blue-green algae, triggers the release of stem cells. It then becomes obvious to me. So we had to spend about 5 years to complete determination of mechanism of action, active compound, proof of concept, filing the patents, all of that work. Once all of this was done, what was always in the back of my mind was if we evolved in symbiosis with the environment, the moment we discover one plant having an effect on stem cells, it's impossible that there's only one plant in nature that has this effect. Just like you discover that, I don't know, carrots have beta carotene. Well, soon you discover that it's not the only thing that has carotene in them. You discover that echinacea has an effect on the immune system. Guess what? It's not the only plant. So it's same thing with stem cells. So how do you find them? So I dove into scientific literature and I started to look at what else has been historically associated with many kinds of health benefits, but we don't have a clear mechanism of action. And it's pretty much all those plants, oftentimes referred to as adaptogens. And we talk about these plants as being having an effect on the immune system. But if you look at the immune system only kills bacteria, virus. I mean, it does not repair. So to suddenly make this huge jump that by stimulating the immune system, you get all these benefits touching various aspects of human health, we just have to look at it and just think, okay, scientists were creative, but it's an expression of not knowing. You need to fill that void with some form of explanation. In reality, there was no real explanation as to what was the mechanism of action. So we simply hypothesized, what if these plants simply release stem cells? So we looked at goji berry, medicinal mushroom, seaweeds, and a lot of those known plants. And what we discovered, very interestingly, is that most of those don't release stem cells. They make stem cells migrate into tissues. And at first, when we saw that, we were puzzled because we had studied so far release. We thought, okay, the machine is wrong, so we need to clean the machine. Then later on, the antibody is wrong, so we throw the antibodies away. We buy another batch. Oh, the reagents must be contaminated. And after doing all of these cycles, a few months later, we realize it looks like it's a real response. So if I summarize that in a few words, these polysaccharides increase the density of the receptor at the surface of stem cells that stem cells utilize to detect tissues that are in need of repair. So that means these stem cells now being more responsive as they leave the blood to go into those tissues, well, they disappear from the bloodstream. So we measured that huge drop in the number of stem cells in circulation. And so we identified those. And then after that, I went into remote areas of the world. So you talk about sea buckthorn berry. I was in China. I had a chance to speak with a number of biochemists in different settings. So, like, it was not one meeting. It's important for you to understand the impact that it had on me. So, I meet three different biochemists working with traditional Chinese medicine plants, and I asked them, "You're lost on an island, and you can bring only one plant of the entire Chinese pharmacopoeia. What do you bring with you?" I was expecting something sophisticated, exotic, I don't know, astragalus, things that have a lot of documentation. And all three told me sea buckthorn berry. I was very surprised. I knew the berry, but I mean, honestly, I didn't think anything big of it. So I dove into scientific literature, and what I discovered is that it was used for a long time in traditional Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, Mongolian medicine, for problems of the lung, of the heart, the cardiovascular system, the pancreas, the liver, for helping accelerate repair from burn or bone fractures. Look at the spread of benefits. That's telling me it's likely to have an effect on stem cells. So then I dove in the literature to see what were the active compounds normally associated with the benefits of something like sea buckthorn berry, and they're all the polyphenols. So we made an extract concentrating the polyphenols. We tested it in the lab, and then we saw a significant release in the number of stem cells. Another super interesting one is Aloe Macroclada. So my wife is an actress, so there was this event in LA where I was there, and oftentimes this is not my crowd, so I'm sort of in a corner. And at that meeting, there was a pharmacist who had traveled the world looking for plants for Alzheimer's and Parkinson. So we started to talk, and I asked her, have you come across a plant where the healers, and so she traveled into like Madagascar, Papua New Guinea, South America, the Congos, things like this. And have you come across a plant where the healers are telling you, use that plant, it's good for everything? So she tells me nothing is good for everything. So I explained to her what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a plant that does one thing, stem cell release. It's only one thing, but it will be experienced by people as many benefits. And she said, well, interesting, because yes, on her trip to Madagascar, on the way to the airport, her translator and guide stopped at a market, scooped a full bag of these black beads and said, study that. But you tell a scientist, study that. What do? You study it for what? So it was in her freezer for 5 years. So she sent me those beads. We tested them, and we saw the strongest response that we had seen so far. And it's a product in Madagascar and only there. It's used only there. It's called Vahona. And of 65 species of aloe that they have in Madagascar, they developed Vahona out of one species called Aloe Macroclada. And it's used for changing your hair color to bring it back to its natural hair color. Something that I discovered or realized is a hallmark or a characteristics of almost all the plants that are releasing stem cells. They've been documented in their history to do that. And then back pain, liver problem, digestive problem, and to help older men going back to the field and being able to work in the field in their 80s, in their 90s. So it seems to fill the profile of a stem cell mobilizer. So we tested it, and we saw the strongest response that we've had so far. So all the plant in the formula, we have discovered them one at a time and in the lab as having an effect on stem cells. When I discovered that some plants trigger migration, then I started to combine them together, because it's good to release stem cells, but they only do something if they can migrate in tissues. So by combining both, then we started to see a stronger experience by people consuming the product. So that's what STEMREGEN is. The 5 top plants that we have documented act as stem cell mobilizers, releaser, putting more stem cells in circulation, and the 2 top ingredients triggering their migration into the tissues.